We will continue the Jungle Book story with Rikki Tikki Tavi. Today we'll read pages 105 to 115. Rikki Tikki Tavi was a brave and clever mongoose who fought a great battle against two conniving cobras living in the gardens of the Big Bungalow in Sigalo, India. Although he had help from Darzy, the tailor bird, and the Chinchorda, the muskrat, Rikki did all the real fighting himself. Rikki had a fluffy, bottle-brush tail and a restless pink nose. His eyes were pink too, except when he was angry. When Rikki was angry, his eyes glowed a fiery red. And as he scuttled quickly through the long grasses, he uttered a mischievous sound that mimicked his name, Rikki Tikki 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 Ch. Rikki did not always live in a big bungalow. Like most young mongooses, he grew up with his mother and father in a cozy burrow. But one day, a great flood washed him out of his home and sent him kicking and sputtering down a roadside ditch. The next thing he knew, he was lying in the middle of a garden path, and a small boy was standing over him saying, "Look, it's a dead mongoose. Let's bury him and have a funeral." The little boy's mother peered at the young mongoose. "Perhaps he isn't dead at all," she said. "Let's take him into the house and dry him off." Rikki, of course, was not dead. As soon as he had been dried and warmed, he sat up, wiggled his nose, and looked around. Then he scratched himself, put his fur in order, and jumped onto the boy's shoulder. "He's tickling under my chin," cried the boy, whose name was Teddy. Teddy's parents laughed. "Let's give him something to eat," suggested Teddy's father. Rikki rubbed his nose against Teddy's ear, then climbed down to the floor after a delicious snack of raw meat. He busied himself exploring the house. Curious about everything, he nearly fell into the bathtub, got his nose covered in ink from the inkwell, and burned his whiskers on the end of Teddy's father's cigar when he climbed onto his shoulder to see how his writing was done. Rikki was truly enjoying himself. The next morning, Rikki dined on boiled egg and banana, scampered from one lap to another between bites. He was thrilled with his new family, for every young mongoose hopes to be a house mongoose when he grows up, and Rikki was no exception. His belly half full, a full belly makes for a slow mongoose, Rikki went out to explore the garden. Dashing among the tall grasses, citrus trees, rose bushes, and bamboos, he licked his lips. This was a fertile hunting ground indeed. Fluffing up his tail, Rikki heard a mournful cry coming from the thorn bush. Darzy, the tailor bird, and his wife were weeping. "What is the matter?" asked Rikki, his nose quivering. "We are very miserable," replied Darzy. "One of our babies fell out of the nest, and Nog ate him." "That is very sad," agreed Rikki. "But who is Nog?" Just at that moment, a low hiss came from the thick grass nearby, making Rikki shiver and jump back. Then, inch by inch, the head and hood of a large black cobra rose into the air. "I am Nog," hissed the cobra, his wicked black eyes staring at Rikki. "Look and be afraid." Rikki stared at the giant snake, but only felt fear for a moment, because a mongoose is never afraid for long. Rikki had never met a cobra before, but his mother had fed him on dead ones, and he knew it was a grown mongoose's work to kill and eat snakes. And though his staring black eyes did not show what he was feeling, Nog knew this to be true too, and his cold heart was full of fear. Rikki's tail fluffed up. "Well, do you think it is right to eat young birds who have fallen from their nests?" Nog didn't answer, but watched the grass behind Rikki flicker. He knew that a mongoose in a garden meant death for his family sooner or later, and he wanted to distract the newcomer. "Let us talk," Nog said smoothly. "You eat eggs. Why shouldn't I eat birds?" "Look out!" cried Darz. "Behind you!" Rikki needed no prodding. As soon as the words were out of Darz's mouth, he leaped into the air as high as he could. Hiss! Beneath him, the hooded head of Najina, Nog's wicked wife, whizzed by. Rikki came down and bit Najina's back, but he did not hold on long enough to kill her because he was startled by the way she lashed violently about. "Wicked Darzy!" cried Nog angrily as Rikki leaped to safety. The mongoose's eyes were glowing red and his teeth chattered with rage. While Naj and Najina slithered away into the grass, Rikki trotted off to the gravel garden path and sat down to think. These cobras were something to contend with. But on the other hand, Rikki was pleased with himself, for a young mongoose rarely survives an attack from behind. And so, when Teddy appeared a few minutes later, Rikki was ready to be petted. As Teddy ran towards Rikki, a tiny voice called out from the dust, "Be careful, I am Death." It was Karat, a small brown snake with a bite as deadly as a cobra's. At once, Rikki's eyes glowed red again, and he danced up to Karat, rocking back and forth and looking for a good place to bite the tiny creature. If Ricky had known just how dangerous the small snake's poison could be, he might have been more cautious, but Ricky did not know. "Look," Teddy called to his parents, "our mongoose is fighting a snake." Teddy's mother screamed and came running up behind his father, who was carrying a stick. But before they got to Teddy, Ricky had jumped onto the snake's back, biting as close to the head as he could. The bite paralyzed the little snake, and Ricky was just about to eat him when he remembered that a full mongoose is a slow mongoose, and he needed to stay thin and quick if he was going to fight Nog and Nagina. "You've saved Teddy," cried Teddy's mother, gathering Ricky up in her arms and carrying him into the house. Ricky felt proud, of course, but he didn't understand all the fuss. Teddy's mother may as well have petted him for rolling in the dust. He was, after all, enjoying himself. That night, Teddy carried Ricky off to bed with him. But as soon as the boy was asleep, Ricky went on his nightly rounds through the house, making sure that all was safe. Round by the wall, he ran into Chinchorda the muskrat. "Don't kill me," cried Chinchorda, for he was whimpering, fearful creature. "I do not kill muskrats," Ricky said. "I kill snakes." "How do I know that Nog won't mistake me for you on one of these dark nights?" Chinchorda said, quivering with fear. "My cousin Chura the rat told me—" "Told you what?" Ricky asked, full of curiosity. "Shh! Nog is everywhere," Chinchorda replied. "You should have talked to Chua in the garden." "Tell me, Chinchorda, or I will have to bite you," Ricky said. Chinchorda did not answer, but sat down and cried, "Can't you hear? Rikki Tikki," he said mournfully. Rikki Tikki listened, and though the house was still, he could hear the faintest of scratches, the dry scratch of a snake's scales on bricks. "That is Nog or Nagina," Ricky told himself. Crawling into the bathroom pipes, wasting no time, Ricky scurried off to Teddy's bathroom. There was nothing there, but in Teddy's mother's bathroom, Ricky saw a loose brick and heard hissing voices just outside the moonlight. "When the people are gone from this house, the mongoose will leave us as well, and the garden will be ours," Nagina hissed. "And as soon as our eggs in the melon bed hatch, our children will need space and quiet. The big man is the first to be bitten. When you have done that, come out and tell me, and we shall hunt for Rikki Tikki together." "I will kill the big man and his wife, and the child if I can," Nog replied. Ricky's eyes glowed red in the darkness, and he was filled with anger as Nog's head came through the pipe. But as he watched the 5 long feet of Nog's cobra body appear, Ricky felt a moment of fear. Nog raised his head, and Ricky could see the snake's glittering eyes. Nog took a long drink from the big water jar that was used to fill a bath. "I will catch the big man off guard when he comes in to bathe in the morning," he said in a low hiss. "Nagina, do you hear me? I shall wait here until daytime." Nagina did not reply, so Rikki Tikki knew that she had gone away. He watched as Nog slowly coiled and coiled his long body around the bottom of the water jar. Not moving a muscle, Ricky watched. An hour later, Ricky moved slowly and silently toward the water jar. In the dark stillness, he studied the sleeping cobra and decided he must bite Nog on the head just above his great hood. If he missed his mark or let go before his bite went deep enough, it would mean bad things for Ricky. Ricky jumped and landed on Nog's head, sinking his teeth into the snake's flesh as far as he could. At once, Nog was awake and furious, lashing his body around the bathroom with tremendous force. Ricky was banged against the floor, the bathtub, and the walls until he was sure he would be banged to death. But his eyes flamed red, and he did not let go. Boom, boom! The noises echoed like thunder in Ricky's ears. A hot wind blew over him, and fire singed his fur. The big man had fired 2 shots at the cobra just behind the hood. So the next time we'll read, we'll find out if Nog survives this attack and if Nagina comes back.